Well, we're here. Good to see you. Good to see you guys. Always getting these things going in a worldwide conference with technology and things like that. It's always challenging, but we're here. So actually, the host of this session is my good friend and colleague, Alethia Baena, who is also a big deal in the World Future Studies Federation. I want to tell you, she is on the executive board. And also she is the hub director for Teach the Future in Mexico and has run classes and things like that. So Alethia, you are going to do the introductions. I don't know if you want to do more than that.
Yeah, of course. So hi everybody, welcome to the 24th WFSF World Conference performing at Berlin, at Humboldt-Carré, Berlin. We are in the online program. And we are very happy to have you all here. Thanks for being here. So I want to introduce Peter Bishop and Sean Daken. Let me tell you, of course, most of you know Peter Bishop, but let me say something about him. So Dr. Peter Bishop is the founder and executive director of Teach the Future, an organization whose mission is to encourage and support educators who want to include futures thinking in their classes and schools at all levels around the world. So this is really an important mission. In 2013, Dr. Bishop retired as a professor emeritus of strategic foresight and director of the graduate program in foresight at the University of Houston. He has published 2 books on strategic foresight, Thinking About the Future, Guidelines for Strategic Foresight 2007, and Teaching About the Future, The Basics of Foresight Education 2012, both with co-author with Andy Hines. Dr. Bishop is a founding board member and chair of the membership committee for the Association of Professional Futurists, who is also a partner here at this conference. Dr. Bishop came to the University of Houston in 2005, having taught future studies at the Clear Lake campus since 1982. Dr. Bishop started teaching at Georgia Southern College in 1973, where he specialized in social problems and political sociology. He received his doctoral degree in sociology from Michigan State University in 1974, and his bachelor's degree in philosophy from St. Louis University, where he also studied mathematics and physics. He grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, where he was a member of the Society of Jesus, Jesuits, for 7 years. Dr. Bishop is married with 2 children and 3 grandchildren. So that is Peter Bishop. Peter Bishop, very welcome. Let me introduce Sean before getting started. Okay. Sean Daken is a strategic foresight and innovation leader who helps purpose-driven organizations manage complexity and uncertainty in the context of rapid change. Mr. Daken excels at uncovering insights, trends, emerging issues, opportunities, and threats, and collaboratively developing and implementing strategies to reduce risk and accelerate innovation. With more than 20 years in product management, innovation facilitation, and customer and marketing insight roles, Mr. Daken has held high visibility positions in large enterprises, including Sun Microsystems, Deloitte Consulting, Intuit, and SendGrid, and has held leadership positions in multiple startups. Mr. Daken was the founder and CEO of Refactor.U, one of the first technology skills accelerators in North America. Most recently, Mr. Daken led the emerging technology research team at Trace3, a $1.5 billion B2B technology services company. He is currently the managing principal of Next Order Impact, a private consultancy. Mr. Daken holds a BS in management with concentrations in information systems and computer science from the Wallace E. Carroll School of Management at Boston College and an MS in Future Studies from the University of Houston. So welcome, Sean Daken. It's good to have you here.
Thank you.
And well, finally, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm the host of this session. I'm responsible for some of the online sessions. And as Peter said, I'm an executive board member from the World Future Studies Federation. So I'm glad to have you here. So I am the past director of the World Future Society Mexican chapter. I'm the director of Teach the Future Mexico and member of the executive board and the core team of Teach the Future Global. I'm the co-creator of the psychoprospective or psychology of anticipation and generator of Teatro del Devenir, forward theater, and I'm also an experienced creator. I'm a personal futures advisor and the coordinator of Component 5 on psychoprospective and social and educational innovation of the Open Network of Innovation and Foresight for Latin America and the Caribbean. I'm a member of WFSF, of the Association of Professional Futurists, and from the Futures Advisory Board of the Longboat Foundation. I'm advisor of the specialty in Design of Tomorrow at the Center for Design, Film, and Television here in Mexico City. I'm a national and international lecturer and workshop leader, and also the WFSF President's Outstanding Young Human Futurist 2016 award winner. So it's very glad to have you here. And well, the three of us, I think, are ready to start with this session, which is called Gaming the Future, Introducing Foresight and Future Skills to Young People Using Games. Peter Bishop, the microphone is all yours.
Thank you very much, Alethia. It's a pleasure to be with you and with Sean, two excellent colleagues of my past. First of all, Sean was one of the outstanding students at the University of Houston Foresight program. We presented many times at the old World Future Society. We remember those. And Sean did himself real proud there. And of course, Alethia and I have met each other a long time. And I know also her mother, a leading theorist in the World Future Studies Federation, very well. We used to meet at the World Future Society too. You remember that, Alethia? We had hugs. It was mostly about that. It was great. And I hope your mother is doing well. We are Teach the Future, as Alethia says, an organization whose mission is to bring futures thinking to young people. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. That's essentially my part of this presentation. Sean's going to take over after that and talk about the details of our game strategy, which is a way to bring, which we believe is a way to bring futures thinking to young people, both in school and out. We've just started this a month or 6 weeks ago, but we've made some great progress, and Sean's going to tell us about that. And then Alethia will return as a presenter to show us one of the games that we will be highlighting, her work in role-playing games called Future Theater. And there'll be a terrific opportunity there for that too. So this is our Teach the Future presentation, and let me just get right into it then. As Alethia says, the Teach the Future and Future Studies indeed began at the University of Houston. Didn't begin at the Central Campus, which this is a picture of, where I retired from, but actually at the Clear Lake Campus, which is down by the Johnson Space Center in Houston. I'm happy to say that it was the very first degree program, full standing degree. Jim Dater had created his program at the University of Hawaii some years before. It was a concentration within political science, but this was the first degree in the world in future studies. We now have somewhere between a half and a full dozen such degree programs around the world, depending on how you. So I'm very grateful and proud to be associated with the University of Houston, where a lot of this stuff has really started. We did move to Teach the Future in 2013, and this is a picture of the various hubs that we have been talking to, and some of which are actually active around the world. We have colleagues in about 20 different countries, and each hub is a center of futures thinking for young people. Their job is to promote Teach the Future and futures thinking for young people in their country, and we have active programs with all of those. Alethia is there, is in Mexico. We have a very active program in Brazil with our colleague Rosa Alegria. I taught a class in Istanbul last year to teachers, and we have some active hubs in very many other places. It's a wonderful organization. And we have various resources for those of you who would like to look into teaching the future, if there's any teachers or educators out there. We have a library of lessons and teaching materials right there. You'll see the URL at the bottom, very simple, library.teachthefuture.org. It's searchable by keywords there at the top, and also by tags, various levels and types. We also have it doesn't show on this slide, but we have a game section, which we are going to be expanding based upon our work here. So you'll be able to find these games in the Teach Your Future library over time. We have other resources too. We helped a very prominent business school, the Mendoza School of Business at the University of Notre Dame. It is often ranked in the top 2 or 3 undergraduate business schools in the country. And they took the measure, almost 10 years ago, to actually require a foresight course for all of their business majors. So every third-year student in the business school there takes a course called Foresight in Business and Society. It's a great course, and they've been doing it now. Hundreds and hundreds, thousands literally, of students have been through that. I would think it's probably the most populated course. They teach about 600 students a year, and it's a great program, and we're happy to have helped them set that up. We also have our flagship Futures Thinking Playbook, which is a workbook written by Katie King and Julia Rose West. It's essentially a middle school workbook on how to do scenarios. And having done that, students will come away with some of the key learnings about future studies, it is based on research. We do trend studies and trend tracking. It is based upon what you would call predictive type forecasting. What's the expected future? What future we think is going to happen? But even more importantly, it's also about challenging those assumptions and challenging that official future. Not saying it's wrong, but it's just there's other ones and what could happen instead. So the Futures Thinking Playbook is now available in Amazon and in 9 or 10 other languages through Amazon, and most of them through Amazon as well. So we have all the different languages associated with our hubs are available there. A very nice little short introduction to future studies created by my friend Frida Jejun and myself based on a workshop we did in the UAE. And we also have a high school version of the playbook, which is developed by UH students in the 1990s. It's a workshop for high school students. Got a nice little video associated with that too. So if you're interested, we have a lot more materials. And of course, contacting me or Alethia or any member of the Teach the Future staff will be delighted to help you with that. So that's basically Teach the Future. Let me turn then very quickly to this particular presentation. This is a picture of a very important conference on our topic. We're following in their footsteps. Dr. Chen at the university, at the Tam Kang University in the Department of Social Science there, organized this conference. A lot of prominent people there, Sohail Inayatullah, John Sweeney, many others attended this conference in 2016. There is also an edition of the Journal of Future Studies, which is also published by Tam Kang University, on the results of that conference. And so I would urge you, if you're interested in gaming for the future, definitely you want to go ahead and do that. That's basically the setup, the history, and where we're coming from and what we're doing. I'm going to turn to Sean now and ask him if he will kind of share the work he's doing. I mean, I have to tell you that he is an experienced project manager. In fact, I asked him to partner with this because I certainly needed his expertise, and I thank him for doing so. So, Sean, take it away.
Happy to do it. Thanks, Peter. Hey, everybody. My name, as Alethia mentioned, is Sean Daken. My background is in product management, innovation, market intelligence, and strategic foresight. I've known Peter for the better part of 20 years. And over the last few months, I've been advising the Teach the Future team on matters related to their go-to-market strategy and really how to accelerate the organization's mission. So a few months ago, we had been brainstorming how to do that and how to do that more effectively, and kept coming back to this idea of using games to drive engagement with futures thinking and really enhance critical thinking capabilities for primary and secondary students. And so rather than building a game from the ground up, which is something we may do down the road, the team really wanted to step back and really understand the landscape of games that have a futures orientation, or were just really potentially good targets to use in educational settings. And so the result of what I'm going to share with you today is really the beginning of a catalog that we believe will become the single source of truth for foresight-related games that educators around the world will be able to leverage in their own classrooms. And I apologize. Peter knows I've been recovering from a bit of laryngitis, and I'm still recovering. So I'm going to try to move through this relatively quickly before my voice gives out. So our current catalog has 51 games that have been curated by the Teach the Future team. The columns on the left in blue are the data elements that we have released publicly, or else we will release publicly very, very shortly, in probably the minutes or hours following this presentation. And then the additional data to the right, along with additional games, will be added by the team and or crowdsourced as time goes on. And Peter, if you want to move to the next slide. So as I mentioned, we have 51 games currently in the catalog. One of the reasons that we are not currently providing the full catalog of metadata associated with each of these 51 games is simply because the current iteration lacks, I guess, sufficient robustness, for lack of a better descriptor. As you can see from this chart, we do have information related to many of the 51 games, but much of that data is, as of now, incomplete and requires some additional research. So you can see that we can identify that, having a hard time seeing the screen here, that 38 of the 51 games are tabletop type games. We have domain information on 19 of them. We know what the number of players are and the genre and the player mode for also many of the games. But again, much of this information is incomplete, and so we'll be adding that over time. I want to go on to the next one. So let me walk through this very quickly and give you an idea of what we do know about the games in our catalog. And rather than going through everything on the slide, let me just draw your attention to a few of these specific charts. So starting on the left, our catalog contains both online games, games that can be played on a mobile browser or native mobile application, or within a standard viewport browser on a desktop or laptop, along with physical games such as board games, card games, lots of different types of tabletop games. We do know about the genre that the games are associated with, and that really runs the gamut of genres, from role-playing to simulation to strategy, as well as fill-in-the-blank types of games. Most of the games we have in our catalog are multiplayer or team-based games. There are a few exceptions. And they focus on a wide range of domains, anything from pandemic risk mitigation, which is obviously very timely, to governance, to technology and ethics and values, and games that are associated with resource usage and topics like that. So very much runs the gamut of domains. Next slide. And this slide, this is simply just a snapshot of what you will see when you visit the link below. I do not believe that link is active, but it will be shortly. And again, we are providing, the title, the sponsor, the game creator, the description, objectives, and the URL where the game either can be played or can be downloaded. And longer term, this will live in a more robust way, as Peter alluded to, on the teachthefuture.org site. And so we are looking forward to, over time, building this out, making this a more robust resource for, again, educators around the world to begin to play with these types of tools and use them to instill futures thinking and critical thinking skills with their students. And I think that's a really great place for me to pass it back to Peter, who I think is going to discuss next steps with this initiative.
Okay, thank you very much, Sean. I've tried to make that link active, but as you know, I'm not as technically qualified as most people in the world. I put the URL again in the chat. You can try it. It's supposed to be a folder on Google Drive, and it will have Sean's original, just very excerpted version of the game on there, these first few rows and all the rows, and this PowerPoint presentation for anybody who's interested in downloading those. So check and see if that works. The next part of our presentation actually is a game that was developed by Alethia Montero. Alethia is, as you know, she says, a personal futures consultant. Personal futures is a segment of future studies and strategic foresight where we apply exactly what we do for organizations and for teams and for NGOs applied to personal futures. And I think Alethia has developed this very interesting process by which she can do personal futures, and it's called Forward Theater. Alethia.
Thanks, Peter. Great presentation from you and from Sean. So I will talk to you about this methodology, which objective is to build experiential scenarios. Okay, so we all know that the scenarios are possible situations that could happen in the future. To say it in a very simple way, right? So by this dia, the people learn to build scenarios, but through theater. You don't need to know how to act. You just need goodwilling. You just need to be open to the experience, and that's it. So please, the next slide. So we can take a very quick look at what forward theater is. First of all, we remember that we have quantitative and qualitative methods. So from there, we are having the prospective scenarios, and then we also from there, we use stories. You know that stories connect humans, right? We are people of stories. We are always listening to stories. We look at stories through theater, through movies, and much more. So we use three kinds of stories here in forward theater. So we have utopia, utopia, and dystopia. Okay, so we are taking utopia as the trend scenario. Nothing changes. Okay. Then utopia is the best scenario ever, the best from the best, right? And then dystopia is like the worst of the worst. So we choose a topic, for example, climate change. We have a time horizon, for example, 2050, climate change 2050. And we are going to build the scenarios, three scenarios from that topic. The trend scenario, the best scenario, and the worst scenario, okay? So we have, for this whole methodology, like 3 steps. One is the warming up. So we literally warm up what we are going to use in theater. And that is voice, body, and of course, emotions. So in this warm up, we can do like brain movements, brain deep movements, or either we can make bioenergetics exercises. Bioenergetics, it's a branch of the body psychotherapy, okay? So we can warm up with this and also with breathings, of course, and then with exercises with the voices, and with all that, the movement of emotions are there. Okay. Then we have a second phase, which is the theatrical technique phase, in which we use usually the top 3 techniques. Okay. So we have the imaginary ball, in which we literally play with an imaginary ball. We have another one which is called photos or photographies, in which the people plays with their body expression in order to make like a live photographs of any kind of topic, okay? And then the third theatrical technique is called visualization, in which we all close our eyes and let some music to drive us through imagination. And then what we imagine, what we all imagine, we need to represent in the theater as a scene, okay? So we have this second phase, and then we have the third phase, which are the plays. The plays are equal to the scenarios, okay? So you can reach to these scenarios through all the tools that you know to get into some kind of future situation. For example, if you already know things such as Delphi, such as horizon scanning, whatever, you can use this in order to create your scenarios. So you represent these plays, these scenarios alive, and of course you are having some kind of research in front of that future situations. You are having a practice of what can you feel, think, and act towards a future situation. So that's like the whole methodology, and it's a ludic way of teaching because we are relaxing, we are playing, we are laughing, we are using all these skills like creativity and divergent thinking and so much more in order to get into the place and to feel the experience of this. We, of course, use makeup. It's necessary to use clothes, to use props, all the things necessary so that the place can be more real. So then you as an actor can feel as being there, and as an spectator, you can receive the messages and connect with emotions through this, okay? So basically, this is what Forward Theater is about. You can find more at the website. We also have a YouTube channel, and just to mention, other way that it's very important and ludic and also significant for students to learn about future is to create their own board games. Board games, because of course they are like rescuing their manual skills, and these board games I have focused it on scenarios also. So I encourage students to create their own scenario board games. And this has been also very funny because they have a lot of imagination to use there, and they invest their efforts, but in a ludic way. So that is what I can share with you.
Alethia, that's just terrific. When you brought up that slide, I said, this is a lot more fun than doing scenarios at the university, I got to tell you. and that's a really good point, that we should have fun in futures. It should be enjoyable. And that's why we're trying to build and promote games that are fun at the same time and are teachable, and that and students learn a lot. So obviously future theater that. This is a great picture. Alethia, I love it. Terrific.
Right.
Thank you very much. Well, we don't have, I don't know that we have voice possibilities in this, but I think you do have chat. And I'm going to ask Alethia and Sean a question or two now before we get to next steps. If you have questions of us, please put them in the chat and I'll get to them in a moment. So while we're on future theater, Alethia, this is when we teach scenarios, the way this fits in, I think formally, is that we teach it as two steps. One is the development of the idea of the scenario and the evidence for that idea. In the field, it's called the scenario logic or the scenario kernel. It's basically a paragraph or two, very short. It's basically carrying the essence along with the title of the scenario. This is what this is about. The second then is the scenario presentation, about how to then present the scenario to each other and indeed to, I have a little exercise, which I wouldn't call it a game, actually, it's an activity. When I do scenarios in a certificate program, I have each team play as though they are visitors from their future. And each person has a role and they describe their role and what they think about this future. Some like it, some don't. That's okay. It always happens. And it's really an engaging way. And it's forward theater in 5 minutes. Very quick. So I think you put it very well, that it's the development of the idea first, and that requires research and all the techniques that we know about. And then the presentation can be serious, like a white paper or something, but it can also be fun. So what scenarios, Alethia, have you used forward theater for? Do you remember any of them? What's this one? And is this picture?
Yeah. First, the topic is selected by the students.
Yeah,
so
right.
We have, for example, there have been scenarios about technology, spirituality, climate change, for organizations. It has been very diverse.
Right.
This one that was in Colombia, it was something about politics when having like a new president or so.
Okay.
Yeah, and right. There is something important. We know that scenarios need variables or driving forces, blah, blah. So there are two mostly used forces with this. One can be the traditional STEEP category, social, technologies, economics, ecologics, politics, right? And the other one can be the personal domains, as we were mentioning, personal futures. So we can use the personal domains such as finances, transportation, household, social, health, and all that. So depending on the topic, we use these variables.
Great.
So then, and the other important thing is that this is evaluated. The people receive guidelines about how to do this work, and you need to cover this and this and this and this. And when this is evaluated, we are checking that the play really covers the points of being a future story or a scenario with all the details that are considered there.
Great. Good. Alethia, thank you very much. This is absolutely terrific. Sean, one difference between the two of us when we first get started is that you play games and I generally don't. So you introduced us to a game called Pandemic, which is a little bit different than most of the games we found in our catalog. And that's what our colleague, who is a ludologist, a game designer from Brazil, calls a win condition. In other words, there is a win-loss condition. Right. Pandemic has that. Tell us about that game and how we're going to try and create that, because very few of the games in our catalog have that.
Sure. And I wouldn't call myself a gamer necessarily. I tend to play very, very simple casual games as a sort of distraction from reality. But the game that you're referring to is called Plague. By
Plague, I'm sorry,
by I think it's Endemic Studios. or endemic creations. And that is a game that you play on your phone and potentially other platforms, I'm not sure. And I played it on and off for the last 10 years or so. It's essentially a simulation game where you have to assume the persona of a bacteria or virus, and your goal is to eradicate humanity faster than humanity can evolve countermeasures and vaccines.
That kind of extends the definition of winning, right?
A little bit, yeah. And so, what's interesting about it is it's a little bit, like when I first saw it, I'm like, I don't know if I want to play this because I would rather be humanity trying to fight the disease. But it is kind of, so it's fun in sort of a Machiavellian way, but it gives you a different perspective, right? And I think so much of what futures thinking is about is stepping out of your present context and thinking about someone else's context or a context that doesn't exist but could exist. And so taking on the persona of a virulent pathogen or some sort of bacteria, and having to evolve that, having to harden the shell, right? So it's resistant to antibiotics, for example, and trying to find vectors to spread that disease. And so it's an interesting intellectual exercise, and it actually is a lot of fun. And of course, the goal isn't to find ways to create these pathogens in real life that kill a lot of people, but it's to think strategically in a different way. And so that's what I find very enjoyable about it. There is actually recently, and because of the COVID-19 pandemic, that game studio has created a counterpart to plague, which is called the cure. And so rather than being the plague, you become the cure, and you try to find ways to stop that plague from coming about. So I think it's a fun game. I recommend everybody play it.
That's another characteristic that we will be when we get to, and I know you and Danielle and Peter are interested in actually start designing games or modifying them. That's another characteristic we're going to be working for. Most of the games are basically single play. They play in groups, but you act as a player. Each player is separate. Whereas we're also going to look to try and find collaborative games, or games in which a group of people have to work together. And I think Plague the Cure is one of those. I haven't played it yet, but I'm hoping that it is, because that's really, again, we know we create change as groups, not as individuals. And so working together with groups is another learning that we could be teaching collaboration along with games as we go along.
One thing you just said that, so my son is 7 and he is addicted to Minecraft. Although now he's watching more videos of people playing Minecraft than he is actually playing Minecraft. But Minecraft is, again, one of those games that it's a simulated environment, but you get to build in that environment, and you can interact with it in interesting ways, and you can do so in a collaborative way. So that might be something that we think about adding to our catalog, or down the road, building a plugin for it that's future specific. Because so many, so many students, so many kids play Minecraft, millions.
There is a Minecraft game in our catalog.
There is. Okay.
It's based upon a game called Impact, which was developed by Idea Couture, which is a design and consulting firm in Toronto.
Yes.
And somebody just took it and put it into a Minecraft. I haven't played it, but we're getting there. So yeah, some kind of a platform like that would be great.
Yep. I
don't see any chat questions in there. So let me move on to the last section then, and that's where we're going. We're at a crossroads, a branching structure here. Obviously, our objective is promote futures thinking among young people using games, not exclusively, but we think this is going to be a great strategy. So what we've done above the line, and we have questions, which is our first step or two, do the catalog, do research, find games, get the data on them, maybe even write an academic article on futures games, since we aspire to have literally the definitive collection of games and their metadata and attributes. So below the line was where we get into some of the design features that we're going to do. We're developing, and we're going to come up with what do we want students to learn. So we want them to learn strategy. We want them to learn them to think on alternatives. We want them to be able to collaborate. So these will be some ideal characteristics that we will aspire to promote and put into games. We also are fortunate, coincidentally, of forming right now a group of about 30 young people, 12 to 17 years old, that we're calling the Young Voices Network. And we're going to have a kickoff for them a week from Saturday. I don't know how many will show up. I hope a lot of them do. And one of the, working with our games and working with our game designers will be one of the opportunities that we're going to share with them, because we can learn a lot from them, because I suspect there's some real hardcore gamers in that group. They're from all over the world. And I think that will be great to go there. So modify existing games and new games, and then ultimately get people with some funds and resources to be able to sponsor these games, sponsor the game, or sponsor somehow putting those games out into the educational environment. So let me open up the chat again to see if anybody has any other ideas. We only have a few minutes to go. Last minute ideas. Sean, Alethia, last minute comments for you.
Alethia, go ahead if you have any.
Okay, I'm sorry, Claire is the editor of Human Futures, and she's already asked me to write an article about the Young Voices Network, which I'm going to do. That's on my list, but also to do an article about our game strategy. I think our game strategy might be a little bit longer. I don't think we have a whole lot to say right at this time, but she just reminded me that I have an open item with her to write an article about the Young Voices Network for Human Futures. Claire, thank you for the thank you for the nudge. It's on the list. Okay, yeah, some heard. Sean, last minute comment.
No, other than I think it would be wonderful if the people that have participated in this and the people that may watch it downstream, if you have any comments or questions, please reach out to one of the three of us or all of us, and you know, we will also be soliciting feedback on what we have so far, and provide a mechanism for people to add games that they come across, you know, so that we can crowdsource that information. So that would be a wonderful contribution if anyone has it, and would really encourage people to engage in that way.
And I have to apologize that the folder that I created is not mine, and I couldn't make it open public access. We'll fix that today, and we'll give you both this presentation and the version of the catalog, the cut down version that has the most important fields in it. Alethia, last minute comment. You want to take us home?
Yeah, I just want to say that thanks to Teach the Future, we are having the opportunity to apply forward theater into kids and teens, because believe it or not, forward theater was born for adults only. And it has been applied about since a decade ago, approximately, with adults. So now we have the opportunity through Teach the Future to apply this in kids and teens.
Great. Well, we're happy that you're doing that, and we appreciate your work in Mexico promoting our concepts. That's just about it. I think we're at the adjournment time. We want to thank anybody who's out there for participating with us, and any of the people who will see the recording later on. Thanks to the World Future Studies Federation for allowing us to share where we are midstream on our gaming strategy, and for sharing our work about Teach the Future. Thanks to my colleagues, Sean and Alethia, for all their good work and contribution to this as well. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Sean.